So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my iPhone 13 mini versus my iPhone 13 comparison video. Now, a lot of people have been asking about these two because they actually come in at the same exact price point, and look at the difference in the reds. Man, they really made product red this year with the iPhone 13 series and the iPhone 13 mini versus this more orangish red of last year. So these both come in at $699 for the 13 mini and the 12. So the question is, should you get the larger iPhone or should you get the smaller iPhone? Okay guys, so let's talk about the body and the build. So both of these actually have the same exact kind of feeling, design and build. It's just that they're slightly different on the camera, and the iPhone 13 mini is actually slightly thicker than the iPhone 12 at 7.7 millimeters versus 7.4. Now you'll also notice right here on the camera housing that the iPhone 13 mini does have larger lenses than the iPhone 12. So if you take a closer look there, you can just see they basically took these two, turned them to the right a little bit, and they have the iPhone 13 mini cameras right there. In addition, you'll notice that the iPhone 13 actually does have the 13 mini actually does have a lighter design, 141 grams, and that's because there's a 5.4 inch OLED on here. So it feels more like the SE of yesteryear, and that's a really nice touch if you're into that kind of size. Now, for the same price though, you can get a larger phone that feels quite light as well at 164 grams. So this thing stays light even though, it's a larger phone than that one. So this also feels very good. I'd say it's pretty even. It just comes down to you want the smaller size or the larger size. Now on this design, you'll also notice right here, the notches do stay a little bit different there. You'll see that we do have a smaller notch here for the iPhone 13 mini, and what that essentially means is that it's just going to look a little bit smaller, but when you actually look at it closely, you might actually notice it a bit more just because you're looking at a notch on a smaller body. When you extend the screen out further, your eye probably won't look at this as much as it might look over here. Both of them have IP68 dust and water resistance and Gorilla Glass, as well as a ceramic shield beginning on the front of the iPhone 12 and then making its way to the 13 mini. So both beautiful designs, but I definitely prefer the red if we're talking about these two colors right here on the 13 mini. So let's talk about the differences in display. Now we do have a 5.4 inch Super Retina OLED on the iPhone 13 mini, and then you do have a 6.1 inch. So clearly if you go with the iPhone 12, you are getting the larger display, which is a joy. But you also get a brighter display here for the iPhone 13 mini. So if I bring it in a little closer, you'll see if I scroll up on this brightness toggle that the 13 mini will just get brighter than the iPhone 12. Now in the video, it might look like the 12 is getting brighter because it has a larger panel, but I assure you that it's not. I've checked it. This one gets around 800 nits or so. This one gets around 625 nits. So you do get a brighter display. And because the iPhone 13 mini is cramming pixels, into a smaller space, with the 13 mini, you will be getting sharper text. It's very slight. It's not really that noticeable, 476 ppi versus 460, but it's a technical spec I wanted to let you guys know about. You are technically getting the better display on the iPhone 13 mini, even though it's smaller. It's not enough to justify that smaller size if you just don't want that. So if you don't want the smaller size, the 13 mini will definitely not suit you. But if you want the better quality, I would go with that 13 mini. Other than that, again, the notches, we talked about those. Content, when you pinch into a photo or something, it will kind of cut into up here. Videos look great on both. It's just, this one's more pocketable. This one's going to be a smaller GPS navigator too, if you're using it for that. So keep in mind those things. They both do feature that same haptic press though, so it's not 3D touch on either of these, so they feel about the same, and they're both 60 hertz. Neither of these do have a 120 hertz ProMotion. So it just comes down to size, or do you want the better brightness and the better sharpness of the iPhone 13 mini. Now discussing the software, let me bring in my Tesla for the camera section we'll talk about here. But honestly, you're getting widget support on both of these phones. So no matter which one you're using, you are going to have the same widget support, which is nice. You'll have the same app library on both because they are both running iOS 15. You have essentially the same wallpaper setup, although the iPhone 12 gives you these right here. You'll get these specific wallpapers, and then for the iPhone 13 mini, you'll get its set of wallpapers right over here. So they do have their own specific wallpapers. If we go to, the control center, they both have these new ways to focus on these. You have share play on both of them. And one thing that's really noticeable, though, about the difference with these two is that the camera settings for the iPhone 13 mini changed because you have the new cinematic video mode here. You won't find that for the iPhone 12. In addition, if you punch up like this, the iPhone 13 mini also comes with these new photographic style modes. So essentially the real differences you're going to notice in software are here within the camera versus the iPhone 12, which gives you more of a standard setup here, but you at least get your nice, 4x3 to 16:9. You get a few features in here, but the 13 mini is a little bit more feature packed when it comes to that. So, but other than that, you're running the same thing. But if you want a longer lasting phone with the software, the iPhone 13 mini having the A15 Bionic will be that phone. Now, when it comes to performance, I gotta say that they both actually perform quite the same. However, I noticed that I experienced a little more crashes with the 13 mini since it launched because I feel like iOS 15 was slightly buggy. In addition to that, when these phones came on the scene, not all the apps were updated to support it. So I actually experienced a few more crashes on the left. However, when you want to get technical, if you want to look at a benchmark, if we run these Geekbench 5 tests, clearly this phone on the left is going to win in the 13 mini. Having the A15 Bionic chipset is clocked at a higher speed, and it is technically the faster chip, although Apple didn't put more RAM on either of these phones. In real world practical use, most average consumers will not even notice a slight difference between these two. They're going to think they're using the same darn phone. So really it comes into effect down the line. Like if you keep these phones way down the line and we're 4 or 5 years in and you're going to get an extra update for the mini just because it has more performance, that's where you really see it. Or if you are rendering 4K video, which I don't know how many people are, if you're doing 4K video, you probably will get a faster render time on this phone. And if you're playing games, you might get slightly better performance. These are still really well optimized for the 12 as well. So the performance to me is not the deciding factor between these two, but you do get the better chip for the same money. So it could be if you're going to keep it a very long time. Let me know your thoughts on that one. Now, one area I would say, heck yeah, just get the mini is the storage. The mini actually starts at 128 gigs, whereas the iPhone 12 is going to start at a pretty low for 2021 standards, 64 gigs. So yeah, you're not getting a ton of storage here for the iPhone 12, and if you're taking advantage of 4K video and stuff like that, that will run out ridiculous fast. You'll want to get the 13 mini. For more storage at the same price, why not? This area, I would definitely give the win to the mini. Now take a guess before I tell you which one is better on battery life. Well, if you guessed the mini, you'd be wrong. If you guessed the 12, you're also wrong. Neither one of these are pushing 2 days, but neither one of them are going to let you down in one. Whereas last year with the iPhone 12 mini, it would let me down in 1 day. It was pretty disappointing, actually. The mini comes up to the iPhone 12's level, even though it has a smaller physical battery size. Both of these phones have around a 5 to 7 hour screen on time, which is actually pretty good if you're not using your phone all day, buried in your phone. If you're buried in your phone, neither of these are for you. But if you're, the average user going out, going to work, putting the phone down, put it on charge, put on some GPS, playing some music at work, stuff like that, the iPhone 12 should be fine, and the iPhone 13 mini should be fine, but last year's 12 mini wouldn't have been fine. Both of these are quite even, but because you're getting the same battery life on the mini and a faster chip, it could lend you to wanting to get this one instead of this one. Okay, so we talked earlier about the camera's hardware, how we went to a diagonal setup here for the iPhone 13 mini. Is it actually a better camera? Now, they both do feature dual 12 megapixel setup. However, I gotta say that the mini has been producing a little bit better results in my experience. They just look a little bit better processed. I don't know what Apple's doing in the background, but they just look slightly more saturated, just a little bit better, I would say, than the iPhone 12. But it's not a mind-blowing difference. It's not going to be enough to sway you one way or another, unless you really are looking for the absolute best quality of a camera. Now, if we go ahead and look here, you'll be able to do the same pro-like features on both of them, going to your 16:9 aspect ratio, the 4:3, In addition to that, you do have the ultra wide on here and the ultra wide on here. Now, one thing that is important to note though is that the iPhone 13 mini can actually do 4K 60 HDR video, whereas it's limited to 4K 30 on the iPhone 12. So it's also a bit better of a video tool on the iPhone 13 mini. Well, now the front-facing cameras don't really change much if you are looking at either one of these. These are basically the same overall experience. I'd say for the front-facing camera, I wouldn't pick either. But I actually prefer the mini, and I'll tell you why. I like the cinematic video for the same money. I like having, the slightly better results in those photographic styles. I think for the money, the mini is the better option when it comes to camera, regardless of the fact that the iPhone 12 has the bigger screen to frame your photos. You're going to get better results here on the mini. You might be surprised to note that the iPhone 13 mini actually has a louder speaker than the iPhone 12. So the iPhone 12 gets a hair less loud in my experience. So if you want a slightly louder audio experience, that's actually on the mini as well, regardless of the fact that you are looking at a much larger phone for the iPhone 12. These ones at the top are not quite as loud as the bottom ones, but they do provide a stereo effect. I'd say if you want the better audio experience out of the phone, I'd go with the mini as well. So which one did better in mobile performance, LTE, the 5G performance? They both have both of the support for LTE and 5G. Just overall, just connectivity. And I gotta say that neither. The iPhone 12 really brought the iPhone back to Samsung territory, I would say, with this area. And the mini just retains it. Either way you go, you're gonna be pretty happy here. So let's bring it all together. Which one is better? I think overall, the iPhone 13 mini is the better phone between these two. That doesn't mean you should buy this phone at $699 with the iPhone 12 on the shelf right there with it. If you want a bigger screen and you want it at a cheaper price, you could even look elsewhere and maybe find the 12 even cheaper. And consider trade-in values that can knock a few $100s off of each of these. So let me know your thoughts on these two down below in the comment section of this video. If you found it helpful, entertaining, informing, click the like button for me and subscribe if you haven't already. I got way more content coming your way. I will catch you all in the very next episode. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well and peace.